see a lot of companies all thinking that perhaps getting CE mark and outside the United States commercialization is really an important path to take, a real valuable path. It may be, but it may not be for everyone. I have a lot of experience in actually running companies that are at the commercialization stage. And when you're thinking about diversification moves like that, particularly foreign moves, it's very difficult. It takes up a lot of bandwidth and management attention. If you're a startup company thinking, well, I'm going to get CE mark, and then we're going to get some clinical data in Europe, and then we'll bring that back to the US. It's very difficult to do that because you will be spending a lot of brain power actually executing on that, as opposed to focusing on perhaps your clinical programs in the US and raising capital in the US. There's a theme that I'm going to mention a couple times now here at strategic partnering. I think this is something that all companies must do and engage with the potential strategic partners at all stages of their development. And I'm going to attempt to turn to the next slide. Ooh, we did it. This is perhaps not a perfect, but list out some generic business models and strategies. But the point I wanted to make is not that these are the strategies, but I've highlighted in red places in development of your company where you really need to be thinking about engaging with potential exit partners, either through licensing or M&A or co-development or joint ventures. When I say M&A, I mean kind of the working together, not necessarily just selling your company or merging. And it's because you don't know where you're going to end up, because you don't know what the state of the financial markets are. It's important to have these conversations that could lead to any one of these paths all the time. And so even at a very early stage of your company's development, it's important to think about business development and have, if not a function doing it, have parts of the CEOs and CTOs and chief scientific officers' days thinking about these activities. Next slide. One of the things that I try to bring to my clients is a perspective at that intersection between finance and business strategy. One really affects the other. Oftentimes people try to raise it in a vacuum. They develop a business strategy and they think capital will flow. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the two have to work together. And I believe that today, flexibility in business strategy while you're raising capital or just operating is extremely important. The virtual model, where you have very few investments in hard assets, where you have few fixed costs, is really a very powerful way because it provides you flexibility. Recently met a company that is in the healthcare IT space. It has 15 employees. It has approaching $3 million of revenue. It's been in business 6 years. Has never spent a cent on brick and mortar. It doesn't have an office at all. And it's spending a lot of its time executing with a distributed IT working model, collaborative business model. It's software products, developing and executing them. And at the same time, it's engaging with strategic partners all over the world and getting traction for its product without having to have any sort of ties to brick and mortar. So they're very flexible as they're raising capital. Capital efficiency is another topic that I like to speak about, which is this intersection between business and strategy and finance. Meaning, quite simply, how can you get the biggest bang for your buck? How can we raise the least amount of capital and get the largest valuation inflection? And so you think of some of the things that would lead you to that result. It's smaller development programs, having multi-purpose trials or clinical trials, where you think about the sales and marketing and reimbursement implications of your devices. And we've talked about that last point at great length today. It's extremely important. Hiring experts inside the company for your management team is absolutely critical. Having a second-tier team just doesn't cut it today, either in executing a strategy or developing it or raising capital. Speed to market is critical because you use less capital. And then I call them foreign schemes, even though they're attractive. They need to be very, very careful when you consider using them. Last slide, and I'll turn this over to others and to questions. I truly believe these two areas go hand in hand. You can't raise capital efficiency unless you have the optimal business strategy at that point in time. This is truest for an emerging company, because the company, you are naked with respect to the marketplace. You don't have any results yet, typically. And so there has to be a really close alignment between a strategy that's likely to work and the strategies that capital and investors are looking for. It may not be the best, it may not be the strategy that's going to get you that you believe is going to get you the highest valuation, but it may get you at that time the capital. Capital markets are extremely dynamic. They're changing all the time. They change every several months, actually. And it's important to have that flexibility and understanding what people are looking for.
Thank you, Roger. I'm sad to report that we're about 10 minutes over time.
Oh, okay.
And I just don't want to let you get away without challenge from the floor, but we have to bring this to a conclusion. So I can take one or two questions from the floor. Anybody want to ask the last question? If not, then I know if we sit here for a whole week, we're going to continue the discussion, because this is a very important and interesting subject matter. And there are a lot of technologies there, and we're just starting to scratch the surface. And the objective of the networking forum and this kind of discussion is just to open the door and get you to think about these issues. And so far as we're concerned, as an organization, we achieved our objective, which is showcasing interesting companies like Reshape Medical that exist here in our backyard, and introduce these wonderful panelists to you so you can do business with them. So I want to thank you all for your contribution, and we're going to put your presentations, with your permission, online for people to enjoy. So I want to thank you very much. Please put your hand together to our speaker and the panelists. Thanks for your time, and best of luck to Reshape Medical.